As a trans woman, your community has done
Across to
so
the
much
United
for me.
States now, because we've got breaking news regarding the U.S.
It's like the BBC covering Steve Bannon is so funny. It's like, bro, worry about your own shit. You know what I mean? Worry about your own shit, BBC. Don't y'all got like fucking, Liz Truss and all this other shit going on? It seems to me like you guys have a lot of housekeeping to do. Anyway,
Political strategist Steve Bannon. He's been sentenced following his conviction on 2 counts of contempt of Congress. A former advisor to President Trump, he was convicted for defying a subpoena from lawmakers investigating the Capitol riots on January 6th last year. Now, he worked as part of Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, then served as his chief White House strategist during 2017. So let's cross over to Washington. My colleague Gary O'Donoghue joins us live. So with news just in, Gary, that we've got this sentence, Steve Bannon sentenced to 4 months in prison.
Love you, Dad.
Yeah, 2 counts he was convicted on. He's getting 2 sentences of...
Don't make fun of him. 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 Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Bro, he's too British to make fun of, okay? Listen. He went full British. You can't do that, okay? You can't. Like, there's a level of like, oh, like you're kind of fucked up, lol. So like in the British spectrum, okay? And he is too British for you to make fun of. Now it's mean,
4 months to run concurrently and a fine of $6,500. Now, the prosecutors were looking for
God, Steve Bannon, trigger warning. Fuck! He looks like a burnt potato. What the fuck? Steve Bannon. He's got the glizzy skin, dude. He looks like a hot dog that you just left out at the 7-Eleven counter at 4 a.m. and the hot dog is looking right back at you and you're like, do I pull the trigger on this? Do I make this mistake? Holy fuck, he's got that Baldwin alcoholic glow.
A term of 6 months and a much more substantial fine of $200,000. So they've got something towards what they wanted in terms of a prison time, but nothing like the fine. Bannon is expected to appeal these convictions, and he won't go to jail until those appeals have run their course if he's unsuccessful. But he really does represent the most high profile, I think, of Donald Trump's supporters.
Okay, bro, don't zoom in on it. What are you doing? BBC knows what they're doing. BBC's like, this is the most British looking man. We're going to zoom in on his face to ensure that you understand exactly how British Steve Bannon looks. That's right.
Time to become
the answer, very British. More British than you would expect.
To get a sort of prison sentence in connection with the events of January the 6th, even if it is really indirectly in connection for defying Congress.
And understandably, Gary, a huge amount of interest in this.
Ago for a stupid comment I made.
He's a very controversial figure. He's a very powerful and influential person on the
I'm muting the
right.
TTS.
He still has a lot of followers in terms of his broadcast media, and he, despite having left the White House pretty early on in Donald Trump's presidency, he only really lasted inside the White House for about 8 months or so. He continued after some reconciliation to be a powerful influence on Donald Trump, and the January the 6th committee say that he was part of a group of senior strategists, including people like Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump's personal lawyer, former mayor of New York, who met.
Yes, bro. Chatter's putting their heart on their sleeve and Hassan's muting them. Yes, brother. Because this is a fucking stream where there's 25,000, 24,000 people watching, and we're trying to cover the news, okay? You can still see it down there on the screen, okay? You can see it over there. Sorry, whatever, this side, right here, okay? But, like, some of you motherfuckers want to write books, okay? Why G4 failed. Constant pivots, high cost controversy bedeviled the directionless network in the lead up to its collapse. Yeah, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it failed. Because it was a fucking legacy media company that was trying to make content for the online digital world. And you can't do that. Anyway, let's get back to Steve Bannon, and then we'll cover the rest.
The Willard Hotel here in Washington the night before the attacks on the Capitol, and Bannon told his audience that day that all hell was going to break loose.
And in terms of reaction, we know, Gary, he was outside of court. He was rather vocal when it came to all of this.
Yeah, I mean, he's been pretty robust throughout this whole event. He's described the Biden administration as illegitimate. He's talked about his campaigns, particularly against the Chinese state and things like that. And
Gary, as we talk about what he's saying, we're just going to dip in and listen into what he's saying live now.
I testified before the Mueller Commission for more hours. I testified in front of Chair Schiff in the House Intelligence Committee more than any other person in the Trump administration. I testified in front of the Senate Intelligence, I think more than any, all about the issues related to Russiagate, to all of that, okay? The same process every time. I had lawyers that were engaged. They worked through the issues of privilege. And at that time, I went and testified. And this thing about I'm above the law is an absolute and total lie. Now, more importantly, the judge, today was my judgment day by the judge, and he stated for the appeal. We'll have a very vigorous appeals process. I've got a great legal team, and there'll be multiple areas of appeal. But as that sign says right there, can we have the vote sign? On November 8th, on November 8th, there's going to have judgment on the illegitimate Biden regime, and quite frankly, Nancy Pelosi and the entire committee. And we know which way that's going. Either they've already been turfed out, like Liz Cheney, right, or have quit, like Kinzinger and other the Democrats, or they're about to be beaten like Luria and others, or they will lose their power and become a minority, and Nancy Pelosi and Chairman Thompson, all of it. This is democracy. This is democracy. The American people are weighing and measuring what went on with the Justice Department and how they comported themselves. They're weighing and measuring that right now, and they will vote on November 8th.
Mr. Bannon, your supporters noticed your silence during this case. They noticed your silence at trial and at sentencing. Anything you want to say to them?
Can I go ahead and finish? Can I? Thanks. On November 8th, the American people will raise judgment, and we will groom. The Biden administration ends on the 8th evening of the 8th of November. And
they're coming after him because
they're
coming after him because he wanted to, he wanted to do gold farming. Okay, yet another instance of the government coming in and taking a man down because he was trying to do some fucking power farming. It is what it is, but we will not fall for it. Okay. That's my gold farmer.
Department of Justice, Merrick Garland will end up being the first Attorney General that's brought up on charges of impeachment, and he'll be removed from office. Thank you very much.
So Steve Bannon there referring to November the 8th, of course, November the 8th being the midterms. And Gary O'Donoghue is still monitoring this for us from Washington. And Gary, he's being as provocative as usual, following that sentencing of 4 months in prison that we've just had within the past few moments.
Yeah, I think there may be some wishful thinking there. I'd be surprised if Steve Bannon's treatment by the Justice Department is uppermost in voters' minds come November the 8th. I think things like
Journalist traces the peculiar story of Steve Bannon's enigmatic Chinese benefactor. Ye was right. Bro, please don't say Ye was right, okay? Because, like, even when he's right, he accidentally arrived at that position and did it in the worst way possible. Like, I get the joke that you're trying to make. The joke that you're trying to make is that, like, Kanye West was right about, you know, Chinese control over, like, American government or whatever. But, like, you know, no one is thinking that. They're thinking that, like, China is trying to trans your children or some shit. They're not. Steve Bannon looks like the drunk uncle that 2 sips away from saying the most racist thing you've ever heard. Yeah, except even when he's sober, he's saying the most racist shit. Remember, Steve Bannon literally went on a white supremacy tour all across Europe and actually collaborated with the current Italian administration that at the time was trying to gain prominence in Italy. Like, everywhere where there is, you know, the AfD in Germany, the fascists over in Italy, like, he went on a Europe white supremacy tour and talked to every fucking fascist party in Europe.
The economy, things other cost of living crisis, they may be more on voters' minds than how the Department of Justice treated Steve Bannon per se.
Does he have tour merch? Yeah, technically he does. It's called the latest Kanye West collection.
But he clearly wants to turn this into a sort of political discussion rather than a discussion about defying Congress. But there you heard him confirming, of course, that he does plan to appeal the conviction itself, and that could take some time. So if he's unsuccessful, he will get this 4-month jail term.
Someone said British Tucker Carlson, and that is true. You are right about that.
But that may not take place for a while.
He does look like British Tucker Carlson if Tucker Carlson was Baron Harkonnen.
Yes, of course, and it's good. It's good that you point out that, yes, but voters maybe not as interested in Steve Bannon when it comes to November the 8th. But this is such a hugely controversial figure, and there was so much concern after what we saw with the Capitol Hill riots.
Yeah, and we know now, we're waiting actually now for the subpoena that the January the 6th committee has decided to issue for Donald Trump to appear before them and to supply documents. They announced that at the end of last week. We're expecting that any moment. That will have a time scale on it for Donald Trump to do those things, appear and provide documents. The clock is ticking for that committee. The one thing that Steve Bannon is right about is that the midterms changes the dynamic of the January the 6th committee, because if the Democrats lose their slim majority in the House of Representatives, then they lose control over that select committee and whether or not it can continue its work. And so come the new year and the new Congress, if the Republicans in charge, they're going to scrap that select committee. So the pressure is on to get their work finished, get their report written, get any recommendations they see fit to send to the Department of Justice in terms of criminal charges. And I think all that makes it pretty unlikely that Donald Trump will appear before that committee, given that in the past, the evidence is that he doesn't, despite what he says, he doesn't tend to show up to give evidence to these sorts of investigations. He didn't sit for the Mueller inquiry, for example.
Yeah, good point. OK, well, Gary, as always, many thanks for the time being with that reaction there to Steve Bannon being sentenced to 4 months in prison for contempt of Congress. Lots more.
Johnny Harris, North Korea, please. No, man. No. Right now? You want me to cover that right now? No, maybe later, but probably not later. Okay? Anyway, Steve Bannon, smoking on the Steve Bannon pack. Get fucked, Steve Bannon. It's funny that he's going to potentially go to jail for a contempt of court sentence. You know what I mean? But I'll take it. I'll take the fucking scraps. I don't give a shit. I'm not above it. He is a horrible person.